All right. So for this first play that we're going to look at, we're going to have a jet sweep to the right. And I'm gonna really go granular with this so that we can really all understand just how dumb this is from Ben Mcadoo. So I'm gonna start with just the basics of like what is a jet sweep, what is a sweep, how does that need to be blocked typically, and then I'll talk about how we don't do that and how that doesn't make any sense, and we're gonna see all that play out because I really want to help Panthers fans and just football fans in general start to decipher what is it that's an offensive lineman's fault? Like if they just miss an assignment, they misunderstand what they're supposed to do on any given play. That kind of stuff you can start to work out. Maybe you can put a different player in there. And then on the other side of that coin, what is just bad scheme? What do we just need to fully put on the offensive coordinator? And I think that this is an example of something that we just have to put on the coordinator. So again, we've got, I would call this 48 jet in our terminology that we use for my team. So first number in any given run play is going to say who gets the ball, right? So typically your quarterback is the 1, your halfback is the 2. If you had a fullback, they would be the 3, and then a receiver coming out might be the 4, right? The terminology can be different, but this concept that I'm going to walk through is going to remain true no matter what system that you're using. So again, with 48, that first number is saying who's getting the ball. That second number is going to be the hole. And typically, we're going to have blocking assignments that are associated with the holes that we're trying to go to. We might have 26 power versus 26 lead or something like that, and that word might mean something different. But if we're running a sweep, whether it's jet sweep or just 28 sweep or 18 sweep, those things should be blocked the same for the offensive line. They should have the same responsibilities. And what those responsibilities are going to be reach blocks. So we're understanding that the most important player, a defender rather, on any given sweep play is going to be the guy that's responsible for setting the edge. If we can win on the edge, then we've got something cooking. Okay? So what I love about this, and really what I'm explaining, by the way, is just the concept of outside zone. So what I love about outside zone is that, let me take this off actually. So defenders are typically, especially if they're running a gap scheme, and it kind of looks to me like they're in a gap scheme right now, it means that each defender is responsible for a gap. Just like this. Okay? And as you can see, if all of these defenders right here maintain their gaps, then there's not really anywhere for us to go. It's their job to just not get moved out of those gaps, not get blocked, and lose their gap responsibility. So when we reach everyone, it means that like the entire offensive line is going to move one direction, maybe 5-10 yards. So this idea of these gaps, them being responsible for these gaps, well, when we all reach, these gaps move. And so what it makes it tough for the defense to do, what the defense has to try to do to combat this, is every single one of these guys needs to flow to the ball and flow to the ball at the same speed and in the same way so that they maintain those gaps as this whole box that we're looking at moves to our left on screen. That's tough to do, and what happens a lot of the time, if you watch Sean McVay's offenses, if you watch a good chunk of what Kyle Shanahan does down there in San Francisco, you'll see these cutback lanes that open up, and usually what happens when that, when you see that play out, is it means that maybe 55 right here moved to his gap responsibility like he needed to, but maybe 48 got sucked inside, or he just, this offensive lineman was able to get outside leverage on him and pin him back inside. And then even though we're trying to get out here, the gap now becomes here. So that's how outside zone works, and that's basically what a sweep is at the NFL level most of the time. So all of that said, okay, that's how this should look. We should be reaching, hat on a hat. Christian's got the corner that's off the screen down at the bottom. Okay, and I like running wide zone with Christian. I like running wide zone with DJ, essentially what this is, because it allows the person that is the ball carrier to find a hole and hit that hole And people that are naturally instinctive runners like Christian and DJ can do a really good job with that. Now to where Ben Mcadoo drives this car, this clown show of a car off a cliff. We managed to not do the schematically sound thing in reach blocking, and instead we have taught all of our offensive linemen that when we run this jet play, we want to block down instead. So right off of the bat, we can see that there are two things that can happen here. Christian can come take on 55, which, I mean, look at the size of this man and look at the size of Christian. Don't love that. But I guess in theory, all Christian really needs to do is get to the outside shoulder of this guy and just force him inside or make him hesitate enough for DJ to get out around. All right, that's fine, I guess. But we don't even communicate that to Christian. This isn't well communicated across the board. So Christian's going to come out here and get this corner that's off the screen. Robbie's blocking this corner, and then we're down blocking the rest of the way. So we just are consciously choosing to run a jet sweep into an unblocked wide 9 technique right here. So if 55 just flies upfield like he should, if he has contained responsibility, especially if he sees a motion coming this way, you'd think that that's what he would do. And surprise, surprise, that's exactly what's going to happen right here. Flies upfield, DJ has nowhere to go, forces it back inside to the rest of the guys. Just bad football. We are going to motion Shi Smith over, faking a jet sweep like the one that we looked at with DJ earlier. And this is important to what we're going to look at here, because jet sweeps typically are going to bring the whole defense screaming towards the jet, anticipating, at least for a couple of steps, right, that they might have to come down and fit this run down here at the edge. So when you're drawing up play actions off of this, something that would make sense would be running like drags, for example, away from the jet, because the defense is flowing this way. You get DJ the ball in space out here with room to work with a defense that's flowing the other way for a moment. And so now they're behind. Not what we tried to do. So we fake this jet. We run DJ on a go. We run Ian on, I guess we'll call this a seam, trying to kind of split these safeties. And then we're running Christian on a wheel in between those. So we have 3 routes within like a 10 or a 15-yard box. Genuinely, just this safety could guard all 3 of those. At least he could guard 2 of them. And then this guy helps with the seam. And what we're going to see, too, speaking of that jet, is that that's going to bring this safety over, condensing, basically taking away any window that we might have to hit Ian. DJ's just going to get manned up out here, so that's not going to be open. And that leaves Christian, one-on-one with the safety inside shaded. What are you going to throw it, like back shoulder in the middle of the field to Christian? This is a great example of that. I don't know what we're trying to accomplish. Ben Mcadoo. I thought that was a great job from Baker to get anything positive out of that. Anything positive at all. So, getting back to this. How could this play have been better? Well, this play could have been better probably a lot of ways. What I would have liked to have seen is a whip route from Robbie right here, and that would have been wide open. If we wanted to run this seam ball to Ian, all right, let's jet DJ across this way and move this safety out. And now Ian, even though he's got a safety on his back, if Baker puts the ball right in here, a low ball, just throw it right in there, keep it away from this safety, that'll work. A lot of different things that we could do that would make more sense than what we actually chose to do. Okay. Here's a play design that's not the worst thing ever. We're going to run Ian on a seam, just go. And then we're going to run double slants back here. And this is a good way of manipulating space. Essentially, Ian's job is to kind of force this backer out of the window for this slant. And then it becomes a simple, right? So, like, the way that you read this is, you always kind of have a process or a progression that you go through when you're reading a coverage. And so, read number one would be, does this linebacker carry this seam? If he does not, then you should just throw it right in here in between the safeties, put it on a line, get it to him. That should be a touchdown if you time it up right. Read number two is going to be, okay, so if he does carry this, that vacates this space. And now we read this guy, and it's simple. It's just a 1-2 read. If we have leverage on this and this open space in here, then just go ahead and hit that one. If this guy manages to carry so far inside that he vacates this area, then now this slant is open in that spot. Okay, and we see that Baker reads this exactly the right way, and he puts this ball exactly where he needs to, and then we drop it. Okay, so we're going to see a very typical man beater concept. It's kind of got a zone beater baked into it too. This one isn't so much on the scheme, but it is definitely on how we execute, and that comes back to us coaching the details as well. So right off the bat, I'm going to point out that you see the relationship between number 28 here and Terrace. The fact that when we motion Terrace over, this guy is following him, that tells us we've got man coverage. Okay, so to draw this play out, we've got a hitch. When Terrace gets out here, he's going to have a hitch as well. And then we've got just a simple mesh concept. So DJ is running across and Ian is running across. So as soon as you recognize that this is man coverage, that means that you need to look to this part of what's going on. Okay, because anytime that we are running away from someone, like we're running across the field, that's going to be a good man beater concept. It's tough for them to react to that because we might come out, we might go in, they don't know for sure, so we should have a step as soon as we take off, and if we're running, we should be good. Where this falls apart, in my opinion, is going to be Ian. So the way that this is coached up, the way that this should be coached up, when you practice this, you say, all right, you two, DJ and Ian, when we are repping this in practice, I want y'all to slap each other's hands so that you make sure that your spacing from each other is really tight, and it makes it so that essentially Ian's going to come over the top of this, right? And then the guy that is responsible for DJ is going to have to either go over top of Ian or try to come underneath it. Either way is not good for him. It just further creates separation for DJ as he's running across the field. So DJ's probably the primary read here once we recognize that this is man. But as I play this out and you watch Ian right here, Ian gets held up at the line, and then he doesn't get in the way nearly enough of that corner. So Ian instead of trying to go out around this end, he should just come right here, get going, and then the way that you should kind of be thinking about this as you're Ian Thomas going through this play is you can't actively set a block on this. That would be illegal. That would be a penalty. But you do have a right to your space when you're running a route. So what you want to do is you want to come right through here. You want to identify this guy as you're doing this. And you want to take a track so that I'm going to basically run into him on purpose as much as I can while looking back at Baker and kind of showing my hands. That's going to tell the referee, hey, I'm just running a route, man. I have a right to my space. That's not a penalty. And then DJ is going to have to recognize where Ian's going and come right underneath that. So this whole thing falls apart in my opinion because of Ian Thomas right here. And Austin Corbett also gave up a pressure. So once again, it almost doesn't matter if sometimes we do have a good play call and we just don't execute. A lot of the time we don't have even a good play design that we're even trying to accomplish. So there's a lot of different things that are wrong. There are leaks everywhere on this boat. And I don't like to be negative. I always want to find something to be hopeful about when it comes to rooting for my Panthers. But it's really deeply frustrating right now, and I'm sure that most Panthers fans feel this, maybe not quite as much since we won the Saints game last weekend. But our defense is playing so well, and none of us even believe that we're capable of continuing to win. Nobody in the media believes that we're capable of continuing to win because we do all of these dumb things and execute poorly on a drive-by-drive basis, and it makes it really difficult for us to extend drives and keep the defense off the field. I hope that it gets fixed. I want it to get fixed. I'm starting to lose faith that Ben Mcadoo is going to be the guy to do it. So that is going to do it for this week, for this episode. By the way, I was not able to get the All-22 film of the Saints game because NFL Plus doesn't have it up. It's now Thursday. I waited until Thursday hoping that it would come out, and it just never did. So I had to look at the Giants this week. Hopefully, when it comes out, finally, I'll be able to do a little bit of the Saints game and a little bit of the Cardinals game for next week. But let me know if there's anything that you learned from this video. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe. I had an issue last week getting promoted on my own coaching staff, so I wasn't able to put a video out last week, but my intention is to make sure that there's at least one video breaking down every game going forward for the rest of the season. So thanks for watching, especially thanks if you're still sticking around and listening to the end of this, and I will see you next week.